Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. The Prime Minister has spoken, but growth has fallen to a new and disappointing low. So today we ask, how does Indian industry respond to the situation? My guest is the chairman of the Godrej Group and former president of CII, Adi Godrej. Mr. Godrej, let's start with the Prime Minister's statement in Parliament. Are you reassured and has he lifted your confidence levels? Or do you feel he spoke in generalities and mainly repeated things said several times previously by Mr. Chidambaram?
Well, I think the Prime Minister spoke as I would expect him to speak, not committing himself too much in that speech to the Parliament. I think he was trying to justify why things were as they are. I think he has overlooked some facts in that speech. I think one of the biggest mistakes we made when we brought in retrospective amendments in a budget 2 years ago on the Vodafone case after a good Supreme Court judgment, I think that created a tremendous negative perception of India on foreign shores. I think some of the other things, actions we have taken against foreign companies on tax matters has also created a negative perception. He forgot that one of the biggest problems has been that ease of doing business in India has always been poor, and it has worsened considerably in the recent past, according to all the ratings, including the World Bank ratings.
Now, I think
these are some of the causes for the bad economic situation we are in today. Now, obviously, he was as defensive as you would expect him to be.
Mr. Godrej, one of the issues that deeply concerns Indian industry today is the Food Security Bill and the Land Allocation Bill. Those were subjects on which the Prime Minister was deafeningly silent. Do you get the impression that he's dismissive of industry's concerns regarding these two bills?
Well, Karan, those are clearly political moves. We've known all along when the bills were introduced and when the act was passed also by the Lok Sabha that these are political issues. They will help solve certain social problems, but it's going to make, especially the land acquisition bill, is going to make things very difficult, especially for industry, housing and infrastructure, because cost of land acquisitions will rise very considerably. That will lead to increasing cost of projects. It will mean that India's competitiveness will be negatively affected, and we must realize that this is not the best for economic growth. However, if you look at the social justice point of view, I think both these bills will help improve social justice to a certain extent.
Except, can I interrupt? Can I interrupt there? The Prime Minister completely ignored your concerns with the land allocation bill and the fact that this would hold up investment, it would hold up development of industry. Does that silence from the Prime Minister disturb and worry you?
No, but Karan, you must realize that both these bills have been discussed for a very long time. Industry's concerns have been expressed earlier. Some changes have been made to meet those concerns.
Okay.
You can't expect at this stage, when the bill has been brought in and it has been passed by the Lok Sabha, that they will refer to the concerns of industry. They think they are doing the right thing by the country, and they will obviously not look at industry's concern on this at this stage.
You're being very understanding. Let me bring up another issue of the Prime Minister's speech. Do you accept his point that the fundamentals of the Indian economy are strong and it's only experiencing what he believes is temporary turbulence? Or, looking at the disappointing and worryingly low growth figure brought in by Q1 of just 4.4%, do you believe that structural measures are now needed, which the government is either shying away from or at least not acknowledging?
Well, the GDP figures announced this afternoon were very low, 4.4% GDP growth, especially industrial output, which was down by a little over 1%. I think that's of great concern. But I would agree with the Prime Minister if he had added the medium to long-term economy seems to be in good shape. I expect India will start growing well in the second half of this financial year, with the agricultural output likely to be very good. It will have multiplier effects. So I expect the second half should be better than the first half. And clearly, there's no question that the medium to long-term outlook for the Indian economy is good. Our demography is very positive. Obviously, we have to take the right steps. I hope we will take the right steps. And I am very confident
Can I stop you there?
To long term.
You say, obviously, we have to take the right steps. What are the top 3 steps that are needed to be taken?
Well, immediately, one of the biggest problems is the acute depreciation of the rupee. It has depreciated far more than was necessary from the inflation point of view.
So
I think 57 to 60 is understandable. Anything over 60 can be very damaging to the economy.
What would you like the government to do? What would you like the government to do?
Stock market.
What would you like the government to do?
The government clearly should have defended the rupee, not let it depreciate to the 69 level it did. Fortunately, they have taken a couple of steps. So from the level of 69 a couple of days ago, it has come down to less than 66 today. I think we should bring the rupee back into a 57 to 60 range. If that takes place, and with the good agricultural output, we can look to accelerated growth in the second half.
Let's just stick to the rupee for a moment. There are 2 large, ominous, worrying clouds on the rupee's horizon. The first is the fact that United States is going to start tapering off its quantitative easing perhaps as early as next month. And the second is the sharply increasing oil price, which analysts predict could go up to perhaps even as much as $130 to the barrel. In that situation, do you believe the government should vigorously use its reserves to defend the rupee, or would that be risky and unwise?
No, I think some of the reserves should be used. The rupee should not be allowed to depreciate too much. Of course, if you use up some of the reserves, we must find ways of getting those reserves back to the earlier level. There's a lot that can be done to attract remittances from Indians abroad. Already remittances have started growing. The current account deficit can be controlled through restricting gold imports and taking other steps. But I think the most important steps we need to take for the medium term is to make ease of doing business better in the country. A bad situation of ease of doing business in the country has deteriorated in the last couple of years, and we've got to make a concerted effort to see that in all spheres, doing business in India is not intimidating.
What is it that needs to be done to make ease of doing business easier? What is that critical step that you want?
First of all, these constant permissions required to be taken from government in various spheres should be done away with. E-applications for all businesses should be increased. Some states have done it with success. We should do much more of it. And this sort of a thing that the Cabinet Committee of Investment has been formed should have been done much earlier and should be very active. In the recent past, some work has been done to clear projects. I think the government complains of lack of investment. I think they should realize that some of the lower investments are because people who want to invest are delayed in their investment.
Let's come back to the current account deficit. It's one of the 2 great challenges that the government faces at the moment. The finance minister is confident, and the prime minister repeated that confidence, that the government will ensure it doesn't exceed $70 billion or 3.7% of GDP. The key question is, can India avail and make sure that it gets the necessary international flow of funds to finance the CAD at that level? Do you believe that's possible, or do you think once again they'll have to dip into their reserves?
No, I think we can do it quite easily in the medium term. If we keep the CAD to 70 billion, the current account deficit to $70 billion, already remittances from Indians are increasing dramatically because obviously they get more rupees for their dollar. I think in other areas also we can attract more funds. We can even float sovereign bonds if we need to. So clearly we have the time to do it, and we certainly can. So I feel if we take strong steps on defending the rupee currently and take the steps we have and encourage exports. Unfortunately, when things were going well for exports, we removed some of the incentives for exports. We should restore them.
The second worrying deficit, and some would say it's even more worrying than the current account deficit, is the fiscal deficit. Now, with quarter 1 growth just 4.4%, there's absolutely no way that we're going to achieve the budget target for the full year of 6.4. With the rupee depreciating and oil prices going up, clearly the 65,000 allocation for petroleum subsidies and fertilizers will be more than missed. And finally, with the market so volatile at the moment, the disinvestment target of 40,000 is going to be missed as well. In those circumstances, do you believe Mr. Chidambaram when he says he'll definitely make 4.8, or do you have doubts?
No, I don't have doubts. I think he'll meet it. Remember, people had a lot of doubts about his promises on last year's fiscal deficit. He did better than his promise, and I think he'll do it. I expect that things like diesel price increase, a one-time diesel price increase of about 4 rupees a litre, we'll see within the next week or two. I think fertilizer prices will also be increased, so there would be steps taken to contain the fiscal deficit.
Do you really believe that you're going to see a 4 rupee increase in diesel prices in the coming weeks? Remember, this is an election year. And secondly, do you really believe that Mr. Chidambaram can repeat what he did last year, which is when he cut expenditure by an astonishing 92,000 crore to bring the fiscal deficit onto target? Can he do it again when elections are just 9 months, maybe even less away?
Well, Karan, for example, diesel price increases, we've not heard of any complaints about 2 or 3 rupees price increases that have already been effected. Diesel prices don't affect the common man directly too much.
They kick up transport, and they kick up the price of
much
things.
on kerosene.
They kick up transport costs.
Common man.
They kick up transport costs, and as a result, the cost of vegetables and other things that are transported go up as well. You believe this government has the guts to take those tough decisions?
Yes, but I think now with a good agricultural season, generally agricultural prices will be reasonably under control now in this year. You must remember last year we had a very bad monsoon. Against then we have an exceptionally good monsoon.
In which case, I'm going to take a break at that point. And when I come back, I'm going to turn to what your impression and image is of the economic leadership. You clearly believe that although tough decisions are needed, this government has the capacity to take them. You don't share the doubts of many others who feel that, in fact, this government will shy away. In which case, after the break, I'm going to ask you, what is your opinion of the triumvirate that takes the political decisions in India? And do you believe, as Mr. Tata has said, that the world has lost confidence in India, or do you disagree with Ratan Tata? All of that in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an interview with the chairman of the Godrej Group, Adi Godrej. Mr. Godrej, at the end of part one, you seem to express a certain amount of confidence in this government's ability to take tough decisions, despite the fact there's perhaps just 9 months, maybe less left for the next elections, and despite the fact that up to now many people feel this government hasn't shown the guts. So let me ask you, what is your impression today of the 3 men who take the economic decisions in India? Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. Chidambaram, Mr. Montague Singh Ahluwalia. Do you believe the dream team has lived up to the expectations?
Well, I think economic decisions in the last year, since Mr. Chidambaram became the finance minister, have been taken sensibly. I think 2 or 3 things have gone a bit awry. One is the rupee has been allowed to depreciate far too much. That can be a very serious problem to the inflation situation and the fiscal deficit situation. That needs to be corrected. I think in the last 2 or 3 days, I've seen a correction come about. I hope we'll see more of that. That's extremely important. The government has to use some of the foreign exchange to defend the rupee. The other thing is that they must leverage the good agricultural season that will come about, the multiplier effect it will create in other parts of the economy. If they can do that reasonably well, we can see an acceleration in growth in the second half. Now, and usually when things start getting better, there's a virtuous cycle created that can help.
You know,
now, of course,
can I stop you there?
Projects which are held up must be passed quickly. If we don't do that, then we won't restore growth easily.
But that's the nub. There are so many critical reforms that have been held up. I'm talking about pension, insurance, DTC, GST. All of them have been held up for years. And Paribas, the French bank, has now gone on record to say that the Indian parliament is toxically dysfunctional. Do you believe that it will now function better in the next 9 months, or do you think that's too much to expect? Because most people, I'll add, don't believe we're going to see the reforms needed until after the elections.
It's quite possible. I don't think the GST will get through very easily. There is still some work to be done. It's a great shame, because GST would have put us into an excellent position right now, because GST adds about 2 percentage points to our growth rate, other things being equal. The other bills are important, but not to my mind critical.
In which case,
And,
can I stop
I think
you?
we must leverage the good agricultural season ahead.
Can I stop you? We can leverage the good agricultural season, but agriculture is only about 16% of our GDP. What gives you the basis for your confidence that this government will actually take the tough, necessary steps needed to push growth up? Because that was what you were suggesting in part one. But if Parliament is not going to push through the reforms that are critical, then what are the ways of leveraging growth back to where we need it?
Current agriculture is only 16% of our GDP, but the multiplier effects of high agricultural growth and rural income can add to both industrial output and services output, which could be in addition to the direct GDP impact of agricultural growth.
Then let me put this to you. A few days ago on this channel, Ratan Tata, one of India's most highly regarded industrialists, said that because of the inaction showed not just by the government but by our political system over the last 4 years, the world had lost confidence in India. In his speech to Parliament today, it was quite clear that the Prime Minister disagreed with Mr. Tata, although he didn't say it in so many words. Where do you stand on that issue? Because you deal a lot with foreign investors. Are they losing confidence, or is Mr. Tata exaggerating?
No, I think the perception is rather negative. I mentioned to you that the negative perception started with the retrospective amendment post the Supreme Court judgment in the Vodafone case and introducing the GAR amendments. And then we have taken a lot of action, tax action against some multinational companies. So clearly there is a strong negative perception about the Indian economy. But if we see growth accelerate and if we improve the ease of doing business, then I think it could reverse itself. So I am reasonably confident that the growth in the second half of this financial year will be better than in the first half. And if we are able to do that, then if we can bring in something like the GST in the next financial year, then the medium to long-term growth rate could be restored back to an 8% plus level.
Now, there are people who say that because Parliament is not delivering on the critical measures that are needed, because this government perhaps is constrained by politics or the fact that an election looms ahead on the horizon, that the best solution to ease India's economic crisis is an early election. The Business Standard has recommended it. Several commentators have spoken of it. Do you believe an early election is necessary, or do you think it would be a mistake?
No, I think the early elections could be beneficial, because then the political uncertainty would go away. But I don't expect an early election.
Are you worried that an early election, instead of removing political uncertainty, might throw up a yet more fractured mandate and therefore a more weak and unstable government? Many people think that's likely.
That's possible. If the third front does extremely well in the election, it could lead to certain uncertainty.
Would that worry you?
Yes, definitely.
What about something else? Do you believe that Narendra Modi, if he were to become Prime Minister, would be good for Indian industry and Indian economy?
Well, any Prime Minister who liberalizes the economy, reforms the economy, would be good for the economy. Now, I don't know, Narendra Modi has done a reasonably good job in Gujarat. Maybe if he does become Prime Minister, he can do a good job at the center, but he's not been tested at the center. He's never been in the Union Cabinet. It's difficult to say.
Do you think that his performance in Gujarat gives you hope that he will perform well as Prime Minister if he becomes Prime Minister, or is it difficult to go from one to the other?
Well, it depends. Sometimes some people are very good as a Chief Minister of a state. They may not be as good as central ministers or the Prime Minister. One has to check, one has to see how it evolves.
Mr. Godrej, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to Devil's Advocate. Goodbye, good night.